See this stuff? Old man's beard. It's really soft, actually. If you touch it like this, it's quite soft. I touch that there. It's quite mossy, but when it's wet, it is slimy as anything. And if you're walking through in the dark, or it's getting dark, you get it draped over your face. It's hideous. Okay, so I've got some apples here. I've been buying a lot of Pink Ladies apples, and they're just delicious. They're very, very crisp. There we go, that's better. They're very crisp. So I have just a few left of these. These are figs, crystallized figs. I'll pop them down there. Some cashew nuts. Some almonds. Brazil nuts. Walnuts. And so you may recognize this. This is our old moon moth. The old moon moth site. I was looking for the entry point, but it's here. It's here. Now, has that pattern on the front of that stone changed? Now, I haven't been up here for a long while because, truthfully, it's quite dangerous once you get inside. Remember that had the sign of Mercury? And it doesn't now. I wish I'd brought an ultraviolet light because it might have shown something else. See how thin the forest is now? It's all collapsed. So we've just dropped the food at the other site. And this is about an hour away. I am going to be careful how I go around in here because it is dangerous. It is. So those of you who've been with this channel for a long time will remember this site. There we go. And bizarre things such as this. So common to see. Now I'm going to have to try and pick a way up through here. So I have asked if any of the family would like to help me out on this video, and really what I want them to do is to, whatever ideas I come up with, if I'm totally wrong, if they can correct me on them so we get the correct picture. So I have just heard Afeanean say, "I'll be glad to help." So also I hear the family saying, "We're all glad to help." With whatever information we need. Today I'm going to talk about ears. The Janu people's ears. Now if you look at our ears, unless you're an elderly man, and I'm not being rude, but I can remember my dad's ears never stopped growing, and I did threaten him that I would set up a Facebook page for Jim's ears, because clearly they have a life of their own, microclimate of their own. That's being rude. But Bigfoot ears, Janu people's ears, on the face of it, they appear to be disproportionate to the rest of their body, disproportionate to the size of their body. When you think how big their body is, it's all in proportion. And I mentioned in the last video about AI that Thinker had proportionalized their bodies. So images that we have seen, and primarily more than that, the descriptions from witnesses that we have seen. Oh look, parallel tree sticks, 3 in a row. That happens naturally, doesn't it? So their ears. People say, wow, how small their ears are. I found that quite interesting, because you'd think their head is in proportion with the size of their body. Their eyes are in proportion with the size of their body. Their mouth, people say, is slightly wider, but it's in proportion with the rest of their body. So what I'm saying here is, are their ears as, I don't want to say useful, but are their ears as important to them as they are for us? Because our hearing deteriorates with age. And at that point we accuse everybody of mumbling and not speaking clearly, when it's worn out. Does their hearing deteriorate with age? So I'm hearing Afeanean saying, yes, it does deteriorate with age. Their inner ear, the hearing amplifier, the receiver, should I say, not amplifier, the receiver within your ear, your inner ear, it's much further inside their ear than ours is. Therefore, making it harder to damage, because if you've done military service, you've been near explosions. If you're listening to a lot of music in headphones, that would be me. If I'm mixing or recording, that would be me. And you can damage your ears and give yourself tinnitus. So theirs is much further within their ear. So they tend not to have hearing issues. Now my question, Afeanean, if you can help with this, my question is, the other sensory things that they have, and I kind of think they have other senses. So I tend to think the other senses that they have compensate for the size of their ears. I'm deliberately pointing the camera at my comedy ear, which is about right for the size of my head. But theirs would be half that size. Well, probably the ear would be the same size as my ear, but on their head, which is twice the size of mine. And it was just a thought. I wonder if they use their other senses. So, what other senses would they be? And I'm going to ask Afeanean this. What other senses would they be? Because I have spoken before about energy fields, that they have a sensory part of their body that can read energy fields. And when we go traipsing onto their land, onto their territory, to their home, they know because their energy field has pinged. Does that make sense? So I'm wondering if that compensates, if that's what makes up for the lack of what we would call hearing. What I'm being told is they could actually be stone deaf, but they would know you were about because you pinged their energy field. Think of the bat and sonar. It knows there's a wall because it's sending out pings all the time. These sensories work in their favour. So I have heard stories of people walking along by a stream, and a Bigfoot has been drinking or washing or catching fish in the stream, and they haven't heard the person coming. But then you've got the sound of water, whether it's tinkling, and maybe if they're concentrating on doing something like that, they haven't got their senses activated. Don't know. She's saying it's just a moment off guard. They are just a moment off guard. So they would activate normally. Right, she's saying it's always switched on, like your hearing is always switched on. You can't switch it off, it's always switched on. So their energy field, is that how would you describe that? Would that be called an energy field? She says you could call it energetic radar. Okay. If that's pinged, because they read sound waves, they read energy, they read vibration. We all vibrate at a different rate. Everything vibrates at a rate, set rate. Right, so if they notice they're pinging out radar all the time, and suddenly they get a discrepancy behind them, then they're on the alert. That was bizarre. I'm going to have to look over this footage. It was just like I heard a really large footprint right behind me, as I said about energy behind you. Anyway, Scaredy Pants here. You know, if you have teenage kids or something like that, and you're standing in the kitchen, or you're standing in your house and they creep up behind you and they go boo, and it scares the seven bells out of you, and they're just having a laugh. You didn't hear it because you're using your ears. But there are occasions, say, now if you're walking out at night somewhere and you can't see, it's dark, but you're kind of on the alert, a bit on the alert, you would be aware of somebody walking behind you. You'd quicken your pace, and it's just your senses. It's your sixth sense telling you, you're not alone, there's somebody in your wake. And I think that I'm getting bitten alive here. I think that they have that, it's much more sensitive than that. They just know it when you're there. But for us, it was almost like that was being proven to me as I said that, and I could just hear this footstep behind me. I was actually looking to see if somebody was behind me. There's nobody here. So this is something I'm thinking about with the hearing. Hearing is a tool that is paired with something else with them, and it's their energy. This thing of reading vibration, reading energy, is their biggest defense mechanism. She's saying hearing is one thing that they could do without, if need be. With the level of the way they do their calls, their screams, and it's a bizarre scream because I think they have many vocal cords. I actually think they have 12 vocal cords, because what they actually do is produce, musically speaking, a chord. So if we were to sing, we can only sing one note at that same time. We can't harmonize with ourselves. They appear they can. And it's at the most horrendous level and volume. They've got the chest cavity to create like a sound box, amplify it. But if you were within earshot of that, I think that would be pretty damaging to your ears. So maybe that is one of the reasons why their eardrum, the hearing part of their ear, is so far down their ear canal. And their ears they seem to be very flat to the side of the head. You'd say most of us, our ears are flat to the side of the head. But there are people, you'll have seen them, where... bitten by a thing. I will squash its head. Bitten by everything here. She says, sitting in the middle of the forest on moss, on a mossy log. What do you expect? The ear, in general, is flat to the head. There are some people who you've seen who, frankly, could be the World Cup or Dumbo, enormous big flappy ears. But in general, our ears are closest to the side of the head. But theirs are so flat and so almost, it's like there might be a cavity within the skull where an ear almost could recess. She's saying the skull is shaped differently. And there is an indentation. There's an indentation on our skulls. It's less prominent with them because their muscle tissue also sits in that, the muscle tissue that holds that ear canal. That's interesting. How the human body is designed differently in comparison to the Janu. So these are just thoughts I had because I'm aware that they do hear differently to us. It's a sense that perhaps they don't need. And why are their ears, in comparison with the rest of their body, why are their ears so much smaller? And Afeanean says, small but perfectly formed. Thank you. So we'll leave it there, folks. We'll leave it there for this week. And that was our little foray into ears. We've got eyes. Eyes come up next. Bye for now.